Welcome into the UCR Basketball Show presented by Fire and Vine. My name's Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. The district tournaments are in the books. The region tournaments get started on Friday, and we have all kinds of things to talk about tonight. Welcome in, everybody. Hopefully, everyone's having a great night tonight. Hopefully, you've been enjoying some basketball these last couple of weeks. It's been a little while since we've had a show. We've had a good amount of basketball games since the last time we've had a show, but we're excited for the region tournament. Feels like this is kind of when, obviously, district tournaments are real basketball. This is really when it starts to get real, when a lot more teams have the ability or the opportunity to start to see their season come to a close.
Yeah, absolutely. This is when everything starts getting slashed down. And this is also where, and I mentioned this, I think, last night on air, you start to win games in the region tournament and you begin to feel like you're on a run. That's where this prospect of the state tournament becomes very real. You win 2 more games and you are one victory away from playing in the state tournament. So the glass house is looming. Doesn't really feel that way in the district tournament. Once you get to the region, though, it becomes very real very quickly, and we'll get down to 32, 16, and then 8 teams in the next week that are still alive in each of these classifications.
Well, we'll let more people tune in, but as always, make sure you hit that share button, give us a like, and let us know where you're watching from. It's the UCR Basketball Show presented by Fire and Vine. We'll get into all kinds of stuff coming up tonight, including the UC Top 5 on the girls and the boys side. We'll talk about the district tournaments, the champions of those district tournaments, and then we'll start to preview the region tournaments that get started Friday night, just a couple of nights from tonight on Friday night as well. Before we get going, though, we, of course, want to give a big shout out to all of our all-inclusive sponsors for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. Club Wyndham, Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate, the Real Estate Collective, a new one, Upper Cumberland Generators. We appreciate them for coming on and being a new presenting or a new sponsor here with us at UCR, an all-inclusive sponsor. Livingston Regional Hospital, Tee Up in Baxter, Fire and Vine. This show presented by Fire and Vine. Amonette's Eagle Auction and Realty, Nelson Trophy and Screen Printing, the Watson Chevy. You're watching it right here on the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network, the Crouch Team with Highlands Elite Real Estate, the Quality Family, and Swallows Insurance. We appreciate all of those sponsors, people, and businesses for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. Once again, this is the UCR Basketball Show presented by Fire and Vine. My name's Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. Let's get into it. And let's get into what, probably our final top 5 of the year, right?
Yeah, we may do one at the end of the state tournament. I think we did that last year, but this will be the final one, the top 5s, because everybody's still alive that was on this list or in contention for this list, but that'll start to change in a hurry. And rankings kind of lose emphasis this time of year because, number one, they didn't matter in the first place, so everybody keeps telling me, and number two, postseason games are happening, and those are way more important than rankings. But we will have one final UC top 5 here today.
Well, let's get into it. It's actually pretty easy this week on the girls' side because, the top 3 teams in our UC Top 5 last week all won district championships just a couple of days ago. York Institute at number 1. They're 24-5 on the year, beat Smith County in the 5-2A title game, 54-19. I don't know if there's any basketball team playing better than the Dragonettes right now.
Yeah, they are a juggernaut right now. And destroying teams. Another blowout victory over a good Smith County basketball team. A little blip, Jackson County. York had several days off. Jackson County comes in, hits them a little bit early, but then York pulls away in the second half in that semifinal game. Ever since Reese Beatty's return, they've hit a new planet, and just they've left no room for doubt. And that was something we watched because remember, they were 5th on this list before Reese got in, and that was still a really good basketball team. And Jacob says all the time, they had an opportunity to move up. They earned that right to move up, and they have not looked back. They haven't left an opening for anybody to jump ahead of them, despite the 2 teams behind them playing really good basketball, great basketball as well. This York team, man, they look really good, and they will have to be a major upset for them to not be playing in Murfreesboro in 2 weeks.
Our number 2 team also really, really good right now. The White County Warriorettes, winners of the 7 AAA tournament crown, beating Upperman 32-26, and the Warriorettes now 28-3 on the year. Another team that we knew we expected them to be here at the top of the UC Top 5, and they're number 2.
Yeah, and they have continued through 7 AAA play, now 12-0 against 7 AAA opponents.
Impressive.
That is no small feat at all for White County. that place was rocking. We'll talk about it in that championship game. They get Keely Mullins into the lineup. We'll also talk about that, but that's a big everybody would take that right now this time of year to add a player of Keely Mullins' caliber, and she'll continue to get acclimated and in there as they get into the region tournament. Similarly, this is a team that's going to have to get upset to not go on a deep run. They are that good. They are good at all 5 positions at all times. Coach Dodgen just been tremendous this year with a great roster. He's been great as well. This is a White County team, also absolutely a juggernaut. And for a team that has been trying to get there, man, this feels like a team that's got a great opportunity to get there.
The Pickett County Lady Bobcats come in at number 3, 25-3 on the year. They beat Clay County in the 7 single A tournament title game, 78-60. Survived a scare against Gordonsville in the semifinals, and then got a big win in the championship game.
Yeah, and that game, Brent Smith, I'm sure at the time doesn't think so, but may end up being a positive for this Pickett County team, because it's a reminder that you are not unbeatable, and that there are still, the rotation questions as they get into these playoff games, but they do what you would expect them to do, which is find a way to win that game and then turn around and beat their arch rival in pretty convincing fashion. 3 for 3 different classifications, another juggernaut in the form of this Pickett County team. And listen, this is a class. Wayne County's really good. Moore County's really good. But to be the best, you got to beat the best. And still in this class, nobody's beaten Pickett County. And until that happens, I'm taking them against the field. So they did get that scare. They win the district, though. They're probably about to win this region. I'll be really surprised if they don't. They win this region, they're going back to the state tournament.
Number 4, the Upperman Lady Bees, 24-7 now on the year, fell to that Sparta team, 32-26 in the 7 3A title game. But you said it was a really, really good basketball game, even though a little bit lower scoring, pretty good defensive basketball game.
Yeah, not all 32-26 games are alike.
Right.
This one was a lot of fun all the way through. And Upperman really, it's been a coaching staff. It's been a tough couple of months where they haven't been able to practice normally. They were able to do that last week, and it really showed against Cumberland County. A 21-0 run in the second quarter by the Lady Bees against a good Cumberland County team. That really showed flashes of what we saw earlier in this season before they had these hiccups in, losing to Sparta is not a hiccup. Sparta is really good, but they lost at Livingston and just weren't the same team that we saw earlier. We saw that against Cumberland County. It's a team that's really good, and it's about to be March. And last time I checked, Dana McWilliams is still their head coach. So it's Lady B time for them, and they feel confident they should. Both these AAA teams on this list have great chances of being in the state tournament. And Jeremy and I said it on air, very likely that they play before each other for a 4th time, and not totally not possible that they don't play for a 5th time. But Upperman looked a little bit more like what we expected them to see in that district tournament. And again, this whole top 5, we really didn't have much discussion on because everybody did what we kind of expected to happen.
The Cookeville Lady Cavaliers do come in at number 5, 20-7 on the season. They fell to Lebanon in the 7 4A title game, 45-44. That was a phenomenal basketball game.
Yes.
One of the best atmospheres I've been in the state of Tennessee, bar none. That was incredible on Monday night. But the Lady Cavaliers, again, they were down double digits in that 4th quarter, able to come back and get it tied, and then a free throw late to put Lebanon on top to win it.
Yeah, and listen, this for the entire season has been about the region tournament for Cookeville, and we'll talk about it. It's a much tougher draw now, not having won that game. I think they'll be very happy that they will be able to get away from Lebanon for a game, and then unfortunately have to go right back to Lebanon again. But they're fine, right? They that's a dogfight, and those are 2 teams that are clearly very evenly matched. So the path is a little more difficult because you're going to get Blackman in the semis, but they were going to have to win this region one way or the other. And so right now, I think for Cookeville, it's if you want some, come get some. And again, I think I mentioned this with York. Nobody above them left them an opening to move up, but they certainly weren't going to move down, losing to Lebanon by 1 point on the road in that environment.
Yeah, it was a great basketball game. So once again, the UC top five on the girls' side: York number one, White County number two, Pickett County at three, Upperman four, and the Cookeville Lady Cavaliers at number five. Once again, if you're tuned in, please hit that share button. Make sure you like the stream and comment along with us. Let us know where you're watching from. This is the UCR Basketball Show presented by Fire and Vine. My name's Jacob Vincent. That's Noah McKay. Let's talk some boys basketball on the boys' side of the top five. One change in the top five, but the same five teams will start at number five for this list. Stone Memorial at number five, 22-9. They fell to Upperman in the District 7 3A title game, 61-57, and one of their best basketball games of the year against the Upperman Bees, who really hadn't been tested other than Livingston Academy in the regular season in district play. A good ball game, but they lose by 4.
Yeah, and Stone falls, but really this is a result of number 4 rising with their play recently.
Yes.
Stone Memorial in that game, 30 points out of Jack Cordell, the best game I've ever seen him play. He was tremendous. The unfortunate part for Stone is Upperman didn't play their best. Stone played really well, and Upperman still won the basketball game, which is why they remain at number 1. Spoiler alert. But Stone showed they can compete, right? And they can go back, and if they see that team again in a week, which they're going to have to battle to get there, but they certainly could. If they see that team again in a week, it's a Stone team is going to have a lot of belief that they can go and win that basketball game, which is critical. So very good. Obviously, K-Caps is still K-Caps. The walking bucket, he had a couple of insane shots a day ago and really took a step up, as you would expect him to, on the defensive end in that game yesterday. So a lot of things to like for Stone Memorial right now, but the team that jumps him on the list has just been playing really good basketball.
Yeah, it's the Cookeville Cavaliers, 6 wins in a row. And you go back to the final week of the regular season, we were talking about, okay, they got to win these two, and then they could be the 2 seed. They need a little bit of help from Lebanon, which they got. They ended up being the 2 seed. There was a chance that they could have dropped all the way to the 4 seed in the district tournament. Yeah. They end up the 2 seed. They then play Lebanon in the district championship last night. Went to overtime, but they got it done, 63-58. We had some awesome championship ball games Monday night, Tuesday night between Cookeville and Lebanon, and the Cavaliers now 17-11 on the year, winning the District 7 4A title for the second straight season.
Yeah, a tremendous tournament there for Cookeville, and what a job Coach Hill has done. I don't think anybody thought they were going to win this district entering the season, and they did. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the draw they necessarily wanted, with Laverne dropping the game to Lebanon, who's Jim McDowell can really coach, man. I'm a big Jim McDowell fan down there in Wilson County. He shows it off again, and they almost won it, getting that game into overtime. But now Cookeville probably going to see Laverne in the second round in the region semis, that elimination game. So they're going to have to get over that hump one way or the other to advance to sub-state. But it's not hyperbole. Potential for the state tournament now on the board for the Cookeville Cavaliers, which is just, I never thought I would say that entering this season. You got to tip your cap to them. They're playing great ball, and they've earned the right to ascend up the list a spot.
They've been in some absolute battles, overtime to beat Stewart's Creek in the final game of the regular season, overtime to win the district championship just last night as well, beating Lebanon 63-58. Jackson County is at number 3, 24-2 on the year now after winning the 5-2A title, beating Smith County 54-39. And that was a close game in the first half, and then Jackson County just really ran away with it.
A common theme. Good teams seeing each other for the third time. Naturally, things get a little bit tighter, and Smith County was able to keep it tight, but too much Jackson County in the end. They're shooting the ball really well right now. Outside of Will McCrary, obviously dominating in the paint, they got to continue to hit shots to that level, and now it's go time for Jackson County. It's going to get a little bit tougher as they move forward. They're going to see more athletic teams as they get into the semis, into the region championship game. How do they adjust to that? So far, still undefeated against in-state competition. Got a team again. All these teams on this list right now, really both sides, have really good opportunities to get into the Murphy Center in a couple of weeks.
Pickett County still at number 2. They're 21-6, and they dominated in the 7 single A tournament. They beat Clay County in the championship 80-56 for the third time this season.
Yeah, Clay County and Gordonsville, for that matter, both, and Clark Range, good basketball teams. This Pickett County team, though, has kind of asserted its dominance. They had that blip against Gordonsville. They've turned around, had no real issues in that district tournament. They got to win this region. They got to win
Which
this
is region. Very doable.
It is very doable.
When you look at the other side of the bracket.
They didn't do it last year, and it cost them majorly. And so no doubt that'll be remembered from the Upper Cumberland Coach of the Year, Joseph Amonette. This is a team that feels like they probably should have made the state tournament a year ago. And now they take care of business. They put themselves in position. They'll make it this year.
The Upperman Bees remain at number 1. Surprise, surprise. 25-2 on the year now. They won the 7-3A title game, 61-57 against Stowe Memorial, and again have not lost here in the new year.
It's not close right now. I mentioned they could lose when they're not supposed to. They do that in the next 2 games, they're going to go home.
Yeah.
But because of what they did in that district tournament and surviving that game with Stowe Memorial, they're going to be heavy favorites in the first 2 rounds of the region tournament. And then, quite frankly, the way they played, when they play their best, it doesn't feel like they even have to win the region. It feels like they get into the region championship game, they're going to the state tournament. And somebody's going to have to upset them, or this team's going to win it. That's at that point. Somebody's going to have to play a really good game, and they're going to have to not play their best, because them at their best, nobody's been able to compete with it so far. Compete's the wrong word. Nobody's been able to beat it so far with them at their best. Nobody would argue that the game against Stewart's Creek was them at their best. So I'm not saying they're unbeatable, but when they play at their A level, they're the best team we've got in the Upper Cumberland.
So that's the top 5 on the boys' side. Upperman 1, Pickett County 2, Jackson County 3, Cookeville at 4, and Stowe Memorial at 5. Let us know where you thought we were right, where you thought we were wrong in the comments section, and we can talk a little bit about that. Let's talk some girls basketball and some district champions. Had quite a few district champions across the Upper Cumberland. I'm going to go through the list, and then we can talk about some of the specific tournaments as well, because there were some nice storylines throughout the tournaments. Van Buren County beat South Pittsburgh 63-45 to win 6 single A. Pickett County, of course, beating Clay County in 7 single A, 78-60. York Institute over Smith County 54-19 in 5-2A. Sparta beats Upperman 32-26 in 7-3A, and Macon County beats Station Camp 48-42 in 9-3A. Pickett County, let's talk about them, because in the semifinal round they played Gordonsville, and they had to battle in that basketball game. They came back and eventually won, but it was a battle and a grind going into the second half.
Coach Brock can coach. First year down there in Gordonsville, and she showed this is a Tigerettes team. Listen, don't fall asleep on them in that first round of that region tournament. I'm just letting you know. But this, again, Pickett County, little bit of a wake-up call probably. You can be beaten, and you don't have that margin for error in this tournament. The first 2 games, listen, if Pickett plays their best, they are going to the state tournament, right? If they play well, they're going to the state tournament. But if they don't play well, and they get into foul trouble, you could find yourselves on a dogfight, and that's not what Pickett County wants at this point in the season. So that's why the region tournament gets so intense, because that margin for error, and you would think that game could be a teaching point that Coach Smith says, hey, remember the Gordonsville game? We got to be playing at our best, or we're going to be in a little bit of trouble here, or you'll run into a team that shoots lights out, and you got to find a way to survive it. So it's a Pickett County team, still certainly one of the favorites in the state. The sky isn't falling because they won a game in the district semifinals. But should be a little bit of a reminder there in Byrdstown that, hey, they still got to continue to execute the level we've seen them execute. And if they do that, very few single A teams can beat them.
In looking at their region tournament bracket in Region 4 single A, they play Knowledge Academies in game number 1. They're going to win that by 50 points.
Yeah.
And then they're going to play Clark Range in that second game. I shouldn't say going to. That Clark Range plays Merrill Hyde. District 8 single A is not very strong.
Congratulations on Clark Range on advancing.
So that region semifinal matchup against Pickett County and Clark Range for the 3rd time this season is that one that you're kind of alluding to, that if you're not on your A game, Clark Range is a good enough basketball team that they can win it.
Is Lamar Rogers still coaching Clark Range?
He sure is.
Okay. Yeah. He's got like 18,000 wins in his career. You just are never going to be comfortable if you're an opponent in an elimination game and Clark Range is in the building. It doesn't matter how the season's gone or the postseason's gone so far. Doesn't matter. And that's a rivalry now. So, that's going to be an interesting matchup, because I would be stunned if that's not the matchup in the first round, or in the semis, I should say, of that region tournament. So, and region semis, this will be a common theme throughout the show. And Jeremy's talked about this on our broadcast. A lot of times is the most intense night of basketball in the state, because elimination game, it's almost always 2 good teams against each other. And a lot of times it's these rivalry games where it's the third, fourth matchup between these squads, and all that builds up, and then just chaos ensues. That region semi night, remember last year, the game that jumps to your mind, that Stone Upperman game, where Stone ended up dropping in the district tournament, being the third place team. They play Upperman, and it's just chaos, and a really good team, a state tournament caliber team, goes home. Happens all the time in the region semi. So that's the night that keeps these coaches awake, because you turn around, you have 2 days prep, and you got to be ready to save your season against a good team that you've probably seen before.
I'm also looking at Van Buren's path, and they should fairly easily get to the region championship, where they would probably play Copper Basin. Would imagine they'll win that ball game as well. So Van Buren would be hosting a sub-state round, and it would be the runner-up in this Region 4 that would go to Van Buren County, whether that's Clay County, East Robertson, or somebody else. It could be an interesting matchup with Van Buren County.
And Coach Schaap's a really good coach down there in Spencer. And the thing with Van Buren County is it's similar to some other schools we talked about. The record's really good. The strength of schedule hasn't been great. It hasn't been the strongest schedule. When they played Moore County twice, and Moore County got them both times pretty significantly. That being said, Moore County may be the second or third best team in the state. Yeah. So without question, region runner-up going to Spencer. There's a reason feels like every year Van Buren County is in that state tournament, or they're right around that state tournament. That place is a very unique gym. You're right on top of the floor. If you just say textbook AI, build me a single A small town gym, that's it in Spencer. So it'll be rocking. That's a pretty young Van Buren team. But Coach Schaap, he's really good. And I agree with you. I think they're going to be hosting that game. I don't think they're going to have much trouble in that region tournament. So if it is, and it feels like, and I don't know the numbers on this, but I know we've had it before, Van Buren County, Clay County playing for the right to go to the state tournament. And it's very possible that would be the matchup again.
Yeah, it's very possible, because on the opposite side of that Pickett County Region 4 bracket, obviously you have Clark Range. They could possibly play each other in the region semifinal. And then it's East Robertson against Gordonsville. East Robertson is a good basketball team. They've had a good season. Clay County and Joe Burns. So it very well, if Clay County is able to beat East Robertson, assuming they make it to the region semifinals. But you just said Gordonsville gave a little bit of a scare to Pickett County as well. Who knows what they do against East Robertson. It could be Clay County in that region championship against a possible Pickett County or Clark Range.
It's single A is going to be fun to watch. All these are going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
I look through this and I say, okay, who am I really confident is going to advance out? Pickett County girls, York girls,
Van Buren girls.
And when I say advance out, into sub-state. Yeah. Van Buren girls, Sparta and Upperman girls. And then on the other side, Pickett boys, Jackson County boys is going to be interesting, but feel pretty good about that. Upperman boys. And then several others that could make it, which means we're going to have a busy week and a half. Yeah. But it's still up in the air, right? And you talk about a team like Clay County. Listen, they know how to win this time of year, right? They've built that, and they want to get back into that state tournament again. So Coach Walker, you bet against him at your own peril. And I'm not just talking sub-state. I'm talking about if they get into that region championship game and they face Pickett County again. It's going to be a very interesting bracket to watch down there in single A.
Let's talk some York Institute, because they just beat Smith County again in another very impressive way, 54-19 in the district championship ball game. They just gave up 21 points to them a couple of games ago in that final game of the regular season, and now they only give up 19 in the district championship. Now Jackson County played with them for a little bit in their semifinal game as well, but they got that done very similarly to Pickett County, and then they just completely dominated a good Smith County team in the championship game.
Yeah, listen, I know some folks in Sparta are very upset that they're not ranked number one, and I totally get it. I think if I was a Sparta fan, I would say we should be ranked number one. This has nothing to do with White County and everything to do with York Institute and the way the Dragonettes have not just won basketball games, but have smoked teams. Smoked them, right? Smith County's a good team, right? Smith County beat Sparta 8 games ago, 8 or 9 games ago. And they have just housed them twice, York being. This is a York team that when they have their starting 5 on the floor, they don't have a weakness. And then you couple that with a player of the caliber of Reese Beatty. She is so good. And I know that we had 2 months of the season without her. She is so good, people. I mean, you watch her and you go, oh, she's different. It's not overhyped. She's incredible. And you put her on a team that was already really good with a coach who's really good. And it doesn't matter who they face in the region tournament. They're going to win it. And then they're going to win their sub-state game by 30. And then it's all about the draw. And we'll see where Westview and McMinn Central end up.
Yep.
But one of those 3 teams is going to win the Class 2A state championship. And that's no disrespect to really good teams. Loretto's a good team. Summertown's a good team. I'm telling you, Westview, McMinn Central, or York Institute is going to win this state championship.
Yeah.
They're the class of the field. And this York team has separated from everybody up here right now. I mean, they are the cream of the crop. And it's not about anybody else. You know, it's not about Pickett County. It's not about Upperman. It's not about Cookeville, and it's not about Sparta. It's about York Institute right now. And the way that they have played, they had the blip and they still win by double digits against Jackson County. And then they turn around and they just leave absolutely no doubt. Right now, they are dominating everybody that they play, and it's a super impressive run that they've been on.
They'll play Trousdale County in the region quarterfinals, and then they would play the winner of Westmoreland and Watertown. Would imagine they're going to win both those ball games pretty handily.
Away, yes.
So in the region championship, Liberty Creek is the 1 seed out of District 6, and then obviously Smith County, the 2 seed, still out of District 5. It very well could be York and Smith County again.
I'm telling you, I understand the discussion about Smith County because they have not competed well with York. It's going to be York Smith County again, in my opinion. Now, I'm not sticking my chest out and saying that, but I feel like it's going to be York Smith County again. And if you are Matt Farrell right now, I don't think you really lose sleep over that matchup because of you've set yourself up, right? Mm-hmm. You're not facing them in an elimination game, and you say, girls, if we play them a 5th time, that's the one we got to win. I mean, honestly, right? Does that mean you don't try to win? Absolutely not. You would love to win that basketball game, but you're not staking your season on it because Smith County did what they're supposed to do by making that championship game. And now they got to go beat another region champ in a semifinal or district champ in a semifinal. If they do that, they're going to face York again in a non-elimination game. And we'll see if they can compete, if it can be a little tighter. I think it can be. But Smith County has done what they're supposed to do when you're in a district with an absolute dominant force, and that's stay away from them with your season on the line. And as long as you can do that, you can keep winning, and you can be back in the state tournament for the 2nd straight year if you're Matt Farrell.
Yeah, and if you're able to make it to that region championship, East Nashville is that number 1 seed in the District 7 in Region 4, and then out of District 8, it's Pearl Cone.
And so, East Nashville is a good basketball team. Now, I would caution you with the record. Go look at who they have played. It is nobody and a half. And I don't say that to denigrate East Nashville at all. They could be a state tournament team, but they're not all 24-1s, 25-1s, 26-1s are created equal. Some are different than others. And that is not they've played every top dog and beat them record, right? York could have that record. Yeah. But they've challenged themselves out of district. Smith County could have that record, but they've challenged themselves out of district. East Nashville didn't play that sort of a schedule. So they're a good basketball team and they're really athletic, but it's not an unwinnable game if Smith County were to run in them in the sub-state round.
I'm making this face right now because I just pulled up East Nashville's schedule.
Yeah.
Their district semifinal game. Did you see that score?
I did not. It's probably 111.
78-2.
Yeah. Against who?
Kip, Nashville? Yeah. I don't even know what that is.
It's not a good district. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not all the schedules are the same. And girls basketball is not the same as it is in the Upper Cumberland all across the state. It's a little bit of a different animal. Not to say there aren't other really good areas, but East Nashville is not coming from one of those areas. So if you're Smith County, right, York, I will be stunned if York doesn't make the state tournament. I'm not going to be surprised at all if Smith County makes the state tournament as well. Despite what's happened in these championship games and these matchups with the Dragonettes, I think they very much could be one of the top 8 teams in the classification.
So York Institute, of course, winning 5-2A 54-19.
And real quick, don't sleep on Jackson County as the 4 seed. They're playing decent. I'm I'm not calling a sweep for 5AA, but I think Jackson County will be better than Liberty Creek's a good basketball team.
I was just saying, I looked them up. They look
Jackson County can compete, and Watertown can as well. I think that's gonna be a competitive region tournament. Not all region tournaments are competitive. 7 AAA, 8 AAA girls we're about to talk about. This one I think could be competitive.
Let's talk about this region tournament because we've been saying it for a little while now. In Region 4 AAA,
Congrats.
it very, very, very well could be a sweep of 7 AAA this year. 8 AAA is normally really solid. This is not their year. The number 1 seed is Tullahoma. I've seen them play. That's not a normal number 1 seed. So that means Livingston Academy has a real shot at winning their region quarterfinal game coming up Friday night.
Absolutely. Now I think White County is going to win by 1,000 points. If you play for these teams, stop listening. Upperman's going to win by 1,000 points. I think Cumberland County is going to win by 476 points. Yeah. Now, the Tullahoma Livingston game is interesting because basketball is a matchup game.
That's true.
And Tullahoma is going to press the daylights out of Livingston Academy. Livingston's going to have to limit the turnovers in that basketball game, and they have to have secondary scoring. The book's out. Face guard Ellie Butler, 94 feet. Deny the basketball. And she's still going to get hers, but they need Akora Copeland to hit some shots. Emma Poston was great against Stone Memorial. Probably helped save their season. Definitely helped save their season. Mm-hmm. They need somebody else to give them 8-10 points. Couple of players to give them that. And absolutely Livingston can go to Tullahoma and win. But that's not a layup. I think that's the best game on the board. It's not, which tells you about the dominance of 7 AAA because these other 3 teams. And Cumberland County, listen, that's not a little gimme. They're going to have to go earn it because Cumberland County, they also need some secondary scoring behind Will Height Hawkins. But.
And you've seen Franklin County.
Oh, my goodness. They're going to win. Cumberland County is going to. I'll be surprised if they don't. That being said, Noah, what do you expect to happen? We're going to be at Cookeville High School next Monday for 7 AAA Tournament 2.0.
Round 2.
And then more likely than not, we're going to have Upperman Sparta round 4. But because we're going to have a show until then, if Livingston goes on the road and wins that game and Upperman wins, who's last team to beat Upperman in district play? It wasn't Sparta. Yeah. I'm just saying, so that there's a reason we call it the best girls basketball district in the state. That's not just a cash it in. I'll be very surprised if the White County Warriorettes are not playing for the region title. I'll be surprised if Upperman's not playing for the region title. But Livingston and Upperman get together. Fun stuff happens all the time in every sport. Last time I checked, they don't like each other too much. Their fan bases don't, that's for sure. So it's going to be an interesting region tournament, but I expect it to be an Upper Cumberland dominated region tournament for sure.
Going back to 5-2A really quickly, or at least Region 3-2A, April asking if we think York and Smith County will meet again. Yes. We think there's a good chance with a nod to Liberty Creek. That's a pretty solid basketball team, but Liberty Creek and Smith County would meet in those region semis. Smith County obviously also is a pretty good basketball team. So we do think York and Smith County will be playing again for that region championship.
That question. I think that's the case because you mentioned the nod to Liberty Creek. Very much more confident that York's going to be there when you look at the path. But I think Smith County, I'm not saying overwhelming favorite, but I do lean that way, like that it would be those two in the title game.
So we're talking about here the Region 4 3A tournament. We think it's going to be District 7 3A in those region semifinals. And again, all of this will be played at Cookeville High School, which is nice for us. And then into the region championship as well. And then obviously whoever wins that would host their sub-state round. If you lose that, though, you got to go to Heritage. Heritage is playing some pretty good basketball this year. They got 2 losses, and they're both to Sevier County. And obviously, White County went on the road last year, lost on a buzzer beater to go to the state tournament.
Heritage is very interesting. That region champ, listen, and I've alluded to it on the show. I've alluded to it on air. If it is White County Upperman round 4 by a country mile, it's the most important matchup in this meeting. It's the most important meeting in this matchup, I should say, by a mile, because whoever wins is going to the state tournament and going to cruise there.
Yeah.
Now, whoever loses can absolutely go on the road and win and get to the state tournament.
Yeah.
It's just exponentially more
It'll be a
difficult
much tougher ball game
than the game that they would have hosting on their home floor. Now, Heritage, the record's great. They've been ranked in the top 2 the entire season. The schedule is abysmal. Again, Sevier County is good, and they beat them both times. They've had dogfights. Now, they just hammered Lenoir City, but they had 2 very close games in the regular season with Lenoir City. Lenoir City played Upperman, was not a very competitive ball game. So I do think the record is slightly deceiving when it comes. They don't have what White County has, the win over Bearden, the 2 wins over Upperman, or 3 wins now over Upperman. They don't have that, right? So I still, basketball-wise, am taking White County or Upperman over Heritage. But then you throw the wrench in, that's a great environment. It's going to be raucous. They have a reputation for maybe a little home cooking, even though the officials should be from elsewhere. But it's tough on officials in environments like that. The matchup we'll be able to preview next week. Upperman has not gone on the road in sub-state in a while. They've hosted – these senior classes hosted every sub-state game for the last 3 years. White County, though, just went on the road, lost in a heartbreaking fashion. So you could have 2 different storylines depending on who wins that region championship game. If that's the matchup, again, we could be talking about the Lady Jets and the Lady Wildcats. It's 7 AAA. But whoever wins the region is going to the state tournament.
Because you're most likely playing Soddy Daisy.
Or Lenoir City.
Lenoir City. Yeah. And obviously 7-3A teams have already played those 2 teams. White County beat Soddy Daisy by 29 points.
Yep.
Livingston Academy beat Soddy Daisy by 25 points in the first game of the season.
I'm telling you, it's the same thing that happened last year, right? I think Signal Mountain came to Upperman, and it was a wholly uncompetitive game. Whoever wins this region is going to state. And by the way, is going to have a great chance to win a state championship. These are 2 state championship caliber teams. And quite frankly, I think it's a shame because, and I think the Chivas gets a bad rap on this because there's not an easy fix. But Heritage, White County, and Upperman are all 3 of the top 8 teams in this state. And there's going to be a couple of teams that have no chance of winning a state championship that will be in Murfreesboro. And one of those 3 teams I mentioned is going to be at home. We've seen them make a change with the football region second round of football. It would not surprise me if one day we get a move like that with basketball because of 7 AAA, right? The dominance they've had. And we have these other districts where it's not the same. So that is a shame that one of these great teams, for UCR's sake, I hope it's Heritage, that doesn't get to go to the state tournament. But regardless, a really good team's going to be at home. And that region championship game is, you're playing for essentially 2 wins in that region championship game next Wednesday night.
Quickly, I do want to talk about Macon County as well because they won their district championship in 9-3A. They're the number 1 seed, and looking at they're on the west side of the bracket, so they're in Region 5. They'll take on James Lawson. They'll win that, and then they'll play Maplewood or Portland. They'll probably win that, and
they will.
They might be going to the state tournament.
Yeah, they got to win the region, or else
they do have to win.
They have to win the region. Yeah. If not, Jackson Southside's coming. You're going to Jackson Southside, so they have to win the region. That's what happened last year, right? They weren't able to win the region, and they got beat by Southside. So, but absolutely. And if you remember correctly, right, Macon County, the dominance, and you see it. Keely Carter, a starter at Tennessee Tech, they're number 1 in the OVC. Jalen Gregory, a starter at MTSU, going quickly rising the ranks of all-time players at MTSU, quite frankly. They're number 1 in Conference USA. Those 2 leave. You probably are going to have a little bit of a down period. Macon County did, but now they're on the upswing again. They were not going to be down for long. And my goodness, right? We talked about with teams in our area, man, it's really tough to get rebounding in these districts. Like if you're in 7 AAA and you want to rebound, wow, Macon County by getting to go west. They were able to rebuild faster. But this is a good Tigerettes team with the tradition, and you're right, they got a chance to win this region. If they win this region, they got a real chance to get to the state tournament.
Matt asking about Southside. Jackson Southside, they're most likely going to win their region, so they probably won't play Macon County.
By the way, how in the world are they not geographically lined up with Dyersburg? And I say that because we've got this dilemma out here where whoever comes out of Region 4 3A as the runner-up has to go to Heritage. Well, how does that happen? I'm just curious. Geographically, how does that work? Because they seem, in my mind, like those are fairly close together. And somehow they dodge playing each other like ever. They play each other in the regular season. Credit to them. But I digress. I don't know. It's a lucky break sometimes, I guess. Some people have it better than others.
All right, let's talk about the District 7 4A tournament as well. The Cookeville Lady Cavaliers took care of business against Stewart's Creek in the semifinals. Defensively, looked really good in that ball game. They move on into the championship for that third round with the Lebanon Devilettes. And man, what a basketball game that was. It was really close at halftime, a 1-point game, and then the Devilettes started to take a lead in that second half, built a lead to double digits in the fourth quarter. The Lady Cavaliers, they didn't blink, battled all the way back, tied it up with under a minute to play, and really was just a heck of a play call for Coach Corey Barrett and the Devilettes to get a post player open inside. Callie Reeder really did all she could do, put Maggie Kelly at the line. It's a sophomore post player with the biggest time in her career, and she hits the first free throw to put them up with 1.7 on the clock.
Yeah, it's all about the region tournament for Cookeville. It's been about the region tournament since game number 1 for Cookeville. The path is not as ideal as you love for it to be, but they got to win it. It doesn't matter who you play. You have to win it. And by the way, they know it. Lebanon knows it. And Blackman knows it. You get the runner-up out of this region, and you go to Bradley Central. I'm telling you, win the region championship or lose in the second round. It doesn't doesn't matter. If you lose in the region championship game or lose in the second round, it's the same thing because they're not going. Nobody is going to Bradley and beating them at Bradley. Not with that home cooking. No chance. Not with that roster. The recruited roster and the home cooking ain't happening. So I say that to say, to me, what Cookeville has shown is that they've beaten Lebanon once. They can compete with Lebanon twice. Lebanon is really good, and Corey Barrett's a really good coach. Jennifer Grandstaff is an elite coach for the Blackman, for the Lady Blaze. Cookeville's got to find a way. Jamie Gillis is an elite coach for the Cookeville Lady Cavaliers. They are a really good basketball team as well. One of these three is going to win the region. And for Cookeville's sake, it's got to be them. And if it's them, if they win the region, you're going to get Cleveland at home, and you'll have a chance to get back into the Glass House. Now, that's going to be Lauren Hart, stud, Lady Vol for coming soon. We know they only recruit the best. That being said, I'm not caught up in what happens at Lebanon with some chaos at the end, clearly. Which, by the way, we just got to play. That's just it is what it is. We've talked about it plenty of times on air. You've talked about it. At the end of the day, we talk about this when Tennessee goes to Alabama. You got to win by 10+ points. You got to just leave no doubt. You cannot leave it in anybody else's hands. You just got to find a way. And it's a Cookeville team that knows that. Now, they won't have to play Lebanon until the championship game.
But you got to beat Blackman.
You would hope them against Blackman maybe doesn't have as much of that. At least the potential for the appearance of any of that. Which I think most of the time gets overblown a little bit. It's a basketball game. Things happen. But Cookeville's got a chance to win this region, and now they got to go do it.
The reason we stress how important it is to win this region, just go look at Bradley Central's schedule. They've got one loss in the year. It's to Montverde Academy, which is the number 1 team in the nation. They're
top 10 team in the country.
Their closest game in state is against Clarksville Christian on January 31st. They won by 17. They played Cleveland on February 8th. That's a district, or not a district game, a non-district game. They won 82-35.
Yeah.
They have an average margin of victory of 43 points.
And Kimura Fields, just personnel-wise, matchup-wise, it's a nightmare matchup for Cookeville, right? If Cookeville had a couple more bigs, then you could say, okay, make some shots. It's a nightmare matchup for Cookeville. Look, they're going to win the state championship. Bradley Central is going to win the Class 4A state championship. This isn't breaking news to anybody. But if you're Cookeville, again, You can do something that's never been done before. Because if you win this region, you win your sub-state game, you're the only team guaranteed to be on the other side of Bradley Central.
Right.
Everybody else has to sit there and pray.
You wouldn't have to play them until the championship
they have to
game.
sit there and pray that they don't play Bradley Central. You're on the other side of the bracket.
And that's not to say there's other really good 4A teams.
Right. There are.
County.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But there's only one 4A team that I say Cookeville can't beat.
Yeah.
I think it can beat anybody else if they play their A game.
Yep.
And the matchups are the matchups. We'll go through them as they arrive. But that's also not a gimme in this classification. If this was a different class, it'd be a different conversation. Cookeville's got to execute at a high level in this region tournament. They're capable of it. They are very motivated. And let's see if they can go get it done.
They play Oakland round 1. If they win that game, they have beaten them already this year by quite a bit. They would play Blackman, which that would be a tremendous basketball game in the region semifinals. If you win that, you'll play Lebanon most likely in that region championship game. That's the one you have to win if you want a chance to go to the state tournament. All right, that's what we have coming up on the girls' side. Let's talk about broadcast games on the girls' side. Upperman versus Central Magnet will be a broadcast game coming up Friday night. Pickett County and Knowledge Academies and Cookeville and Oakland coming up Friday night.
And that first one you listed.
And, okay, Livingston Academy is also at Tullahoma on Friday night. So 4 broadcast games coming up Friday night across the UCR Media Network's YouTube channel as well. Livingston, yeah.
Can make a quick note.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have the power to dictate what the TSSAA and the NFHS network decides to do. So I don't know where that was decreed that I suddenly and that we have the power to do that. I do not. We're all just trying to make stuff work. That's it. So save your angry emails and your Facebook posts for stuff you know nothing about. It's died down, thankfully. But I'm not anybody's enemy. We're all just trying to do our jobs. That's it. We're trying to cover the athletes. Stop sending me emails. And by the way, another aside. Gordy, freaking relax, dog. Okay, my entire mom's side of the family went to Gordonsville, graduated from Gordonsville. I grew up on land in Hickman. You only know that if you're from Smith County, where Hickman is. You ever heard of Hickman, Jacob?
No.
Okay. So from me, just relax. You want to know a secret? Can I key you into something? You know our broadcast graphic. If words are too long, they cut off and it looks stupid. So you'll notice Cumberland County, CCHS, right? We abbreviate some. Stone Memorial, Stone. Gordonsville doesn't fit. Gordy does. That's it. We love you, right? We love you.
We'll be doing a ton of softball coming up in the spring. Probably baseball too.
No disrespect at all. It's just a shorthand to fit on the screen. All right. And 99% of people are fine, but everybody directs hate to the wrong person. I'll take it. That's fine. Chill. It fits on the screen. It's nothing else. Relax. It's okay. We're good. I love you. We're just, you got a good team. They're both the girls and the boys can go on some Cinderella runs here. We're going to cover it. I love it. I love you. You love me. We love each other. Everyone sing the Barney song and relax. It's okay. We're good. It's the playoffs. Enjoy it. Okay, let's go.
Let's talk some boys basketball. Van Buren County. Big win in 6 single A. They beat South Pittsburgh 35-31 to win their district championship. And that was a game that they had fallen in the regular season against South Pitt. So they're able to bounce back and win 6 single A. Pickett County, we mentioned, beating Clay County 80-56 in 7 single A. And we talked about it during the top 5. This Pickett County boys team right now, obviously they fell to that Gordonsville team in the final week of the regular season. But ever since that point, they've looked like the Pickett County team really this second half of the season the whole way through.
How many times have we said about teams that win state championships? They lost to this team and then won 13 games in a row. Yeah. Happens all the time. White County Warriorettes just their win streak's up to 7. I'm just saying. I'm not forecasting. The storylines are there for teams. It happens all the time. You lose a game late in the regular season, and then it's your wake-up call, and you don't lose again. Somebody will take that as a slight. I'm literally saying you could win a state championship. Let me clarify that. This feels like Pickett County. That may have been their wake-up call. And a game that did not have any meeting standings-wise for them, had big meeting for Gordonsville. They lose it. I think that's more about Gordonsville than Pickett County and their ability to get up in these playoff games, and they have a chance in this region tournament because of it. They're the class of the field, and they showed it again in District 7A. They're the class of the field in this region, and they're going to have a chance to go a long way, and they need to win this region tournament. And if they do, they're going to go to the state tournament.
Yeah, I mean, they're the favorites in this region tournament. East Robb has 4 wins on the year. They almost won their district championship. I think they lost by 2 or 3 points against Joe Burns in that district championship. So there's a good chance Pickett County's winning this region championship.
Yes.
You do look on the other side. Chat Prep is why we're saying similarly, not the same as Bradley Central, but similarly to Bradley Central. Chat Prep is in the other region.
They're recruiting. Should be a D2 school.
I don't know how they're also I don't know how they're in single A. But they are in single A for this year. And Van Buren County is also in that region, and they might meet them in the region championship if they're able to take care of business against Copper Basin, and then possibly CSLA or Whitwell in the region semifinals.
Exactly. It's pretty simple. Pickett County is going to all Pickett County has to do is play Pickett County basketball, right?
Yeah.
The old adage, the only team that can beat Pickett County is Pickett County. I think that's true right now. Now, I'm not saying that's forecasting for the next 2 weeks, but within this tournament, I feel like they're the class of the field. Now, that being said, can a team like Clay County, can a team like Gordonsville get into that championship game? Remember Gordonsville last year? Kind of snuck up on everybody. They're in that championship game. They make the state tournament. They're into the Final Four, right? That's when I say runs start to begin now. Those are a couple of teams I look at and say, okay, can they sneak in? And then can they go take a crack at Chat Prep, who got knocked off a couple of times by good teams, but still got knocked off a few times, and see if they can go make some noise.
Let's talk about Jackson County. They beat Smith County 54-39 in the 5-2A championship game. In Jackson County, again, they have not lost against a team in the state of Tennessee. Only one loss to a team out of Kentucky and a loss to a team in Florida when they were playing a tournament down in Florida. And you start to look at the path for Jackson County. It's a favorable path in this region tournament. Obviously, they're going to start with Trousdale County, and then they'll play either York or Westmoreland in the region semifinals. Outside of that, you might be facing Smith County or White House Heritage in the region championship.
Yeah, if you're Jackson County, you got to feel good about where you are. You continue to take care of business. They have not had a slip up in this state. Smith County is tightening it up. That's a young Smith County team. And they were very competitive for a long time in that basketball game. And ultimately, Jackson County able to pull away. And Jackson County is not the oldest team in the world either.
Yeah.
Next year,
pretty much all juniors.
Next year in single A, watch out. But this year in 2A, this team that's ranked right in the top 5 or 6 every single week for a reason. And by winning this championship, you mentioned the path. It is right there. You still very much would like to win the region if you're Jackson County. Give yourself the most favorable matchup possible. Felt like they could have been a state tournament team a year ago, and certainly feels like they're probably a state tournament team this year.
Yeah, they've they play Trousdale County coming up Saturday nights. Again, all these games for the girls are Friday night at 7 o'clock. I've actually seen some games have been moved up. I think Van Buren County is playing at 5 for whatever reason. But most of the games are at 7 o'clock. And then Saturday night, all the boys' games for the region quarters are Saturday night at 7 o'clock. Let's talk 7-3A. We talked about Upperman beating Stowe Memorial 61-57 in that district tournament. How about the DeKalb County Tigers taking down White County in that play-in game? And we were just talking about it on the last show. Watch out for this White County team. They're playing some good basketball. We also want to give a shout out to Trip Pinion and hope that he's doing well. He obviously went down with an injury in that game and could not come back in. So we hope he's doing well and recovering from that injury. Obviously, a big reason why DeKalb County was able to win that game, but they were also in that game the whole way through.
They were up 7 points in the fourth quarter when Trip Pinion got hurt. And I echo what you say. Trip Pinion, we will mention him among the great competitors we've ever seen for a long, long time. And hope he gets recovered and able to get on the football field because he's going to
Mhm.
Cumberland University to play at the next level. So we're thinking about Tripp.
Yeah.
But DeKalb County had a significant lead. They had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter before that injury occurred. So I didn't lead that game with the asterisk. Now, if Tripp would have got hurt in the first quarter, then probably it's different. And then DeKalb County followed it up. I know they didn't win another game, but they were in to the very end with Stone Memorial and then again with Livingston Academy in that third place game. And DeKalb County, a team, started out decently and then kind of fell apart in the district play. But, man, they felt like they weren't hitting their potential. They're super athletic. Jordan Parker, one of the best pure athletes in the Upper Cumberland. Dallas Kirby can do it all. And what a tournament Dallas Kirby had for DeKalb County every game, putting in big shots. John Hendricks can certainly play. The list goes on and on of guys there. And it felt like they entered that game, whatever day it was, Friday night, with a different swagger about them and a confidence about them. And maybe it's because they had a good start. But, man, and I know they have a very, very tough game on Saturday. But this is an athletic DeKalb team, and you got to tip your cap to them. We say all the time it's a tournament sport. That's not just a token thing. The 6th seed was in every game in that tournament, and they advance out of it. It's a heck of a job by Coach Agee and those players to stay locked in, stay engaged, and find a way to win a basketball game.
And even in the other playing game, Livingston Academy, Cumberland County, that you had a stretch there that you said it was about a minute and 10 seconds long, I think it was, between Livingston and Cumberland County, where they didn't miss like 6 straight shots. And it was back and forth the whole time. It was absolutely insane. Livingston Academy was able to get the job done. And they also beat Cumberland County fairly easily in the regular season.
Cumberland County plays a fun brand of basketball. That's a young basketball team as well. They'll be interesting to watch. Tristan Futrell, just a freshman. This kid can shoot it. I mean, a quick release from it, it's gone. He doesn't need much space, so he's perfect for Christian Goodwin style of basketball. Run fast, shoot threes, get back and play defense. They'll have to improve on the defensive side of the ball next year, but yeah, they put the fear of God into Livingston Academy in that game. I mean, the Livingston's season was very much up in the air in the fourth quarter of that game as they went back and forth. So the boys' side of that district tournament was awesome.
Yeah.
And then it culminated, and we saw Stone and Upperman separate from the pack. They both handled business soundly. And then they had themselves a good old-fashioned dogfight. And Stone opened that game with the most intensity I've ever seen them play with. And they went up 15-8. And you went, here is this Stone's night. And Upperman called a timeout. They go on a 7-0 run, and then they locked in for a fight. Upperman starts the fourth quarter on a 5-0 run. And to me, that's the thing that makes Upperman so dangerous. They didn't play well for big stretches of that game by their standards. And a big credit to that is the way Stone played defense. But they don't need much of a breathing room. They can hit so fast and just boom, 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 and the entire game flips on its head. And that's what you saw in that fourth quarter, culminating with the Ty Cobb steal and the dunk. But Jack Cordell, man, that was as gutsy of a performance. 30 tough points. But for Stone, they got to put on their hard hats because the path gets a little tougher. We'll talk about it. Great championship game, but still, this Upperman team, they're just experienced and they just find ways to win, even when it wasn't pretty. And that was a question, right? What happens when they get into a dogfight? Because even that Livingston game, they had a 19-point lead. Stone was in control early, and Upperman still found a way to win the basketball game.
I'm really interested to see how this Region 4 tournament goes on the boys' side, because very, very differently from the girls' side, where we think 7-3A is quite possibly going to sweep that side. This one, there's really no givens other than probably Upperman in that first round game.
Oh, Upperman in the first round games, they're going to win. The rest,
probably Tullahoma.
Tullahoma, they got a 6'8" kid in the middle. Now, Tullahoma, to Matt's point in the comments, their schedule was not good. Now, all of 8 AAA, the schedule is not good at all. That being said, Marshall County, remember they were the 4 seed last year, came into Baxter, had a pretty good fight, and Upperman pulled away in the fourth quarter. They returned a ton off of that team. That's an athletic basketball team, so that'll be an interesting game. That being said, feels like Upperman's a heavy favorite entering this tournament. And then Stone and Tullahoma, that region semi. Again, another year with a region semi with Stone. And whoever comes out of that, both teams are going to have a great chance to make the state tournament. They'll have a really good chance to make the state tournament. So region champ's going to make the state tournament, and the region runner-up has a more than 50% chance of getting there as well. So, but I'm curious to see what does Tullahoma do to DeKalb County? Is this a competitive game, or is Tullahoma? And it's not a great matchup with that posting side. Really, the only team with the post that can play with the pure size is Upperman, because Bronson Chaffin at 6'5", Colton Johnson at 6'4". Chaffin can get up. They can help neutralize that size. Stone doesn't have that. Stone has great length, but they don't have that height to that level. And DeKalb County doesn't either. Can DeKalb turn that into a rock fight? We'll be watching closely to kind of forecast how that Stone, the potential Stone Tullahoma game would go.
Now, Tullahoma does have a couple of losses since January 21st. They lost to Lawrence County 56-51. They lost to Giles County 63-62 in the final game of the regular season. They bounced back nicely against both those teams, beating Lawrence County in their semifinal game by 10, and then just crushed Giles County in the championship game. I sent you that score last night. I think it was 49-18 to open up the fourth quarter.
And that's one of the interesting things with Tullahoma that will be fascinating to watch. When they face teams with a pulse, it has not been dominant. And they have not faced – I feel very strongly that Upperman and Stone Memorial are better than any team that Tullahoma has faced so far this season. Now, that does not mean that Tullahoma can't win those games if they face those teams, but it does mean they haven't been tested against that caliber of competition yet.
Right.
Can they rise to that occasion? It's a Tullahoma team that struggled last year in the region semis as well. You mentioned the Lawrence County game. That's a huge rivalry. Lawrence County's had their number. They got them back. Obviously, Tullahoma did in the tournament, but I'm not fully bought in on Tullahoma yet. I certainly feel Upperman's a heavy favorite. And if you made me choose right now, I think Stone's got a really good chance of beating Tullahoma and making it back for a fourth matchup with the Bees.
Really interested to see the matchup between Livingston Academy and Giles County as well.
Yes.
The 2 versus the 3. Obviously, Livingston, they were able to host that first region quarterfinal game last year. That was Tullahoma, wasn't it, in that region quarterfinal game? Or was it Lawrence County?
No, the girls played Lawrence County. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And they both got upset last year. So Livingston Academy going on the road this year against Giles County. Interested to see how that one goes for the Wildcats.
100%. This is a Livingston team. They struggled a little bit with DeKalb County. Now everybody's doing that recently. And then Jimmy Miller got after them in a timeout in between first and second quarter. And they played way better down the stretch. Tucker Miller had a really nice game. Rocco Carwile, Cole Harris as well. Those 3 kind of pacing the way for this Livingston team. It's a long road trip for Hawkeye. Yeah. But I think they could go and win that game. I think very possible 3 out of 4 win on Saturday night out of 7 AAA and then head to Cookeville High School.
Yeah, I can see that as well. Joel asking who Jackson County is playing. The boys are playing Trousdale County, if that is who you're asking about.
Well, they will win by 5,000 points.
Yeah. So that's the Region 4 tournaments. Should be really fun. Again, the region semifinals are at Cookeville High School, region championship at Cookeville High School. And then you look at the other side for possible sub-state matchup. Heritage actually beat Red Bank in District 6. I beg your pardon. Heritage is the one out of District 5. In District 6, where's District 6? East Ridge is the number 1. Red Bank, the number 2.
Yeah, Red Bank got upset. That was
that's what. Yeah. But again, like you said, even if you lose the region championship, probably have a pretty good shot at still going to the state tournament.
Katrina says without Ty Cobb, Stone would have had that victory last night. That kid is talented. That kid's ridiculous. Out of this world, ridiculous nonsense. I mean, and both him and Cade only had, had 16 last night. And part of that's Jack Cordell was going crazy, but both of them hit just some ridiculous shots. And you saw last night why those 2 are Mr. Basketball finalists. But absolutely agree. And real quick on that game, it was so interesting because Cordell was playing great. Cade played great. And Ty was a little bit slow getting into it early, but what have we talked about? That supporting cast. Evan Huddleston scored 5 or 7 points in the first quarter. Jack Torrance hit 3 big threes in each quarter. That propelled Upperman. And then once Ty Cobb put the cape on, Upperman pulled away and was able to get that little bit of separation, to win. That's been the difference in the matchup. Stone's going to need even a little bit more than what they got last night out of the supporting cast.
Let's talk some Cookeville basketball because they are the District 7 4A
Unbelievable.
champions for a second straight season. Was a tremendous win in the district championship last night in overtime, 63-58. Really a great job by Lebanon to get back into it as well. They tied it up as the buzzer sounded. There was about 2 seconds left when the shot hit, and the Cavaliers just didn't really have a chance to get a shot off in time. And so they went to overtime, and now it's 2 overtime victories for the Cavaliers in the last couple of weeks, and they're the number 1 seed going into the region tournament.
They have a path to the state tournament.
They do.
Which nobody had on their bingo card during this year outside of the program, I'm sure. And a tremendous job. I'm sure they weren't expecting to play Lebanon. This Lebanon team has turned it on in a major way, and they found a way to win. Now, that being said, it's going to be a really good region tournament. There's some good teams out of that Murfreesboro region. I think this may be, of all of our region tournaments, the most competitive one,
it's
top to bottom.
Be really fun.
Where literally every game, I think anybody could win it. So Cookeville does not have a big margin for error. It's not that kid from Oakland, and pardon me, his name is Brian Haggard. I don't want to see him in an elimination game.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. I mean, that's not a game you can sleepwalk into if you're the Cavaliers. So, that being said, they win this region, which is possible.
Mm-hmm.
They very well may go to the state tournament, and then let's see what the draw is for them. I mean, that's the unbelievable thing about what Cookeville has done. This team is so young, but they have just enough of that senior leadership with Jaron Davis and Joseph Owens. You got to tip your cap to them, and they're very much still alive in this season. This isn't some Cinderella thing Cookeville's doing by winning this district. They earned the right to be in a good spot in that district tournament. They won it, and now let's see if they can go do the same in the region.
It's in this region championship. It's another one of those you probably have to win it because Walker Valley is waiting on the other side, most likely in the other side. And you would, even if you win it, you probably host Bradley Central, who has been playing some really good basketball here lately as well, which the Cavaliers obviously got to see them in the sub-state round last year and were able to win that ball game. But for the Cavaliers, again, they open it up with Oakland. Oakland has really struggled here in the second half of the season. Only a couple of wins, one against Mount Juliet, and then they beat Riverdale in their play-in game by 3 to keep their season alive. Fell to Blackman by 11, and then Siegel in the consolation game by 17. But like you said, when you've got a player like Brian Haggard who can absolutely fill it up at any time, it's always scary to play a player like that in the quarterfinals in an elimination game. You get to host it, which is a little bit nicer. If you win that game, the draw isn't the best for the Cavaliers with Laverne losing in the semifinals of the district tournament. So they're the 3 seed coming out of District 7 4A. So you're most likely playing Laverne for a 3rd time this season in the region semifinals.
And I'm going to throw the gauntlet down to the Cookeville Cavalier faithful for both the girls and the boys. All right. You can't only show up when you think your team's going to win the state championship, which would have happened in the sub-state round last year. Environment was unbelievable. Show up and give these teams a good atmosphere. Because you know what will stake if you're Cookeville? Those kids have earned the right to play at home in front of a big crowd. Next week, that AAA tournament goes in there. And let's just say, what if? What if Upperman and Sparta play in that Region 4 3A girls championship game? It'd be a shame if there were a ton more people that are way louder in that place than they are in their own gym with their 2 teams in there. And those, I promise you, those 2 fan bases are coming. They're coming, and they're going to make a lot of noise. Do that for your team. If you're a Cookeville Cav or Lady Cav Faith, it's like the 3rd highest enrollment in the state. We got a ton of Cookeville fans out there. Show up. The teams have earned the right for you to show up. Give them a big gate. That helps the program as well. Roll in there 20 deep, bring your friends, and get loud. And I'm saying this to Cookeville because I don't have to say it to Sparta. Roy Sewell's going to be packed out to the brim on Friday night. The Hive on Friday and Saturday is going to be packed to the brim for these region games. 2 good teams. Your teams have earned the right to be there. Get in there and go crazy the way you did last year in that sub-state run, or that state tournament run, I should say, for the boys. I hope that was motivational. Please show up for these basketball teams.
It'll be Cookeville and Oakland Friday night and Saturday night for the girls and the boys, which makes it kind of fun as well.
And by the way, you got to double it up. Oakland ain't bringing a big crowd.
Yeah.
Especially not on Friday night. They do. Yeah. Rutherford County, that's my old stomping grounds. They're not bringing a big crowd for girls basketball. You got to double the amount of people in the gym for Cookeville. Make it a hostile environment, right? Get in there. We see Lebanon, and I know it's a way smaller gym.
And it was tremendous the last couple of
My
nights, even
goodness.
with the Cookeville fans there. They showed out the last couple of nights.
You got to get in there and pack out the house for Cookeville. And it's a huge gym. I get it. But you can make a lot of noise by filling up that lower bowl and some of the upper bowl as well.
So that's what we have region tournament-wise. Again, Friday night games, all girls games, Saturday night games, all boys games, and these are all elimination games. You lose, your season is done. You win, you get at least one more game. You win that, then you get two more games in the region championship and the sub-state round. Here are the broadcast games coming up Saturday night for the boys side. Pickett County will be hosting Merrill Hyde. Upperman is hosting Lawrence County, and Cookeville is hosting Oakland. So the 4 broadcast games Friday night, possibly 4 broadcast games Saturday. We'll see most likely 3 games on Saturday night.
If you've ever called a game from me before and you can drive to Giles County on Saturday, let me know. I'll buy you gas and food. Let me know if you can get to Giles County on Saturday and the next day by 7 o'clock.
Would help us out.
If you have called a game or you've run a camera for me before. If you haven't, God, I love you to death for offering, but we don't have enough time to train somebody in the next 2 days with everything going on. If you have, let me know, and we'll make it happen.
That's going to do it for us tonight. Before we go, of course, want to give a big shout out to all of our all-inclusive sponsors this season. Swallows Insurance, the Quality Family, the Crouch Team with Highlands Elite Real Estate, Watson Chevy. You're watching it right here on the Watson Chevy UCR Media Network, Nelson Trophy and Screen Printing, Amonette's Eagle Auction and Realty. This show right here is presented by Fire and Vine. Tee Up in Baxter, Livingston Regional Hospital, Upper Cumberland Generators, our newest all-inclusive sponsor. We appreciate them for joining the team. The Real Estate Collective, Club Wyndham, and Sonia Brown with American Way Real Estate. We appreciate all those people and businesses for making everything that we do here at UCR possible. I'm going to ask one more time. If you haven't done so already, like the stream, give us a share, leave us a comment. Helps us out more than you know. A lot of broadcasts coming up Friday night, Saturday night, and then into next week as well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Then it's sub-state round after that. It's going to be a lot of fun after the region tournaments and in the region tournaments.